So, unless you have been living under a rock, you have probably heard of the rumors of Charles Leclerc leaving Ferrari. But to which team is he gonna go then? Well, as it stands, Aston Martin seemed like the most likely team to have the Monegasque. I would even personally go as to say that he is the second best after Verstappen. So a driver of his caliber switching teams is definitely big news on the paddock. If Aston Martin actually manages to sign a contract with Leclerc, it will definitely be one of the biggest improvements Aston Martin can make for their future. Besides second last Stroll, of course. But most importantly, it will be one of the biggest losses for Ferrari in almost a decade. But why would it be such a big loss for Ferrari, and how can they prevent it? Well then, today I'm going to be personally trying my best to answer those questions. So warm up your tires and let's start the lap. So the rumor first started surfacing the internet on the 30th of September last year that Charles Leclerc will be departing the Prancing Horses after 8 years of commitment. And that is including 2026, of course. Look, I think we can all agree that not all of those 8 years have been sunshine and rainbows. The driver and also the team have had their ups and downs in this period of time. 8 wins, 50 podiums and 27 pole positions is not a bad statistic for Charles Leclerc at all. I mean, some drivers even dream of having those stats throughout their whole career. But as impressive as those stats are, those stats also come with 0 championships, aging twice as fast, and crippling depression. I mean, Lando Norris got 7 wins in the last season alone. Yes, of course you could say Lando was at the right place at the right time, but when you spend 7 years at the most successful team in the sport's history, you expect that time to come at a certain point. And this is where Ferrari comes in. So first of all, when you got such a promising driver or such a promising talent like Charles Leclerc in your team, you also promise the driver to hand them a car or the package good enough for them to fight for the championship. Look, when you look back at 2019 when Charles Leclerc first stepped into the Ferrari replacing Kimi Räikkönen, everyone, including Charles Leclerc himself, thought that he would be the one to take Ferrari to the top. I mean, he is still to this day the only Ferrari driver in the sport's history to sign a 5-year contract with Ferrari. And Ferrari just don't hand out multi-year contracts like that. So they really knew what he was capable of. Look, it was obvious from the start that Ferrari and Charles himself were both together in it for the long run. But eventually everything has its breaking point. And I'm afraid that breaking point is getting closer and closer for Charles. I mean, you could only go for so many years when your race engineer has the IQ of a worm.
Must be the water.
Yes, loyalty and passion and all that is very important in Formula 1, especially with Ferrari. But as a driver, at some point, you gotta start thinking for yourself. Especially when there are teams with promising futures constantly reaching out to you. At least, that's what the rumor said. Enter Aston Martin, the team with the highest probability of actually signing Monegasque to their team. Aston Martin has been a work in progress for 4 years now. Yes, they haven't had the best 4 seasons since they came back to Formula 1. But when you look at all those time and energy and resources they are spending for their future, how their Silverstone-based headquarters has been expanding, and now with Adrian Newey set to become the team principal, former Mercedes engine guru Andy Cowell, Ferrari technical expert Enrico Cardier, and Red Bull aerodynamicist Dan Fallows all now firing all cylinders for the Aston Martin family. It is definitely appalling for someone like Leclerc. Next up, we also have McLaren, who are also said to be interested in signing Leclerc from 27 onwards. Back-to-back champions for 2 years, comfortably the team with the best package in those 2 years, and also looking at how they have been able to hand Lando the package to fight and eventually win a championship, I could totally understand why Leclerc and his manager would be interested. Look, signing Leclerc means either getting rid of Lando or Oscar, and I don't think McLaren is willing to get rid of such a solid base. Unless they have an absolute crash out with Piastri or Mark Webber too, maybe, who knows? Which I just don't see it happening. Then we have Mercedes, a team also alleged to be willing to send some proper bucks on Leclerc. Rumor has it that going into the 2026 season, Mercedes are a step ahead with the engine than the other 10 teams, and in the new regulation where the engine is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, it will definitely give them the upper hand. So it definitely makes sense why Leclerc and also his team would be interested for a seat in the Silver Arrows for 2027. But then the problem arises again, and just like McLaren, Mercedes also seem to be investing in the current driver lineup with one of the most consistent drivers on the grid right now, along with one of the most exciting talents in F1 currently. So why on earth would they break this project just to have a chance at signing Leclerc? Which is why I also don't see it happening. Lastly, we come to Ferrari themselves. Look, we all know how much Ferrari have invested and are still investing into Leclerc, and we also know just how passionate Leclerc is about Ferrari. So first I would like to talk about what would happen if Leclerc actually left. Now, if Leclerc actually left, Ferrari will have an empty seat to fill, and in the last few years, they have not been shy about hinting at Oliver Behrman as their future. Oliver Behrman did impress me personally with his performance last season. I have been following him also in his F2 years, and I would say while he is a very exciting talent, he is no Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc is one of those once-in-a-generation talents. And I think anyone would agree with me when I say that if Ferrari actually manages to hand Leclerc the car and the package that is good enough to fight for a championship, Leclerc still wouldn't win it because Ferrari would somehow find a way to screw up the strategy. But jokes aside, if handed the right package, Leclerc will definitely win multiple championships. The same sadly cannot be said for Arthur Leclerc. Now in any sports, an athlete gets put under more pressure than usual when they follow in the steps of a blood relative that did relatively good in their respective sports. Think Mick Schumacher, Fabian Vettel, my first ever video on this channel, and Bruno Senna and more. Arthur Leclerc is by no means a bad driver. I mean, there's a reason why he made it all the way up to Formula 2 and is now in the Ferrari AF Corsa. But at the same time, it can also be a double-edged sword in a way that there's also a reason why he is in Ferrari AF Corsa and not in Formula 1. I mean, if he actually managed to get a seat in Formula 1, just imagine how cool it would be to have both Leclercs on the grid and have sort of a Marc and Alex Marquez domination like last year in MotoGP. Sadly, I don't see this happening anytime soon or if ever. So then, what can Ferrari do to keep Leclerc? Well, the short answer is just be better. Long answer is also not that complicated as you think, but it's harsh, and that is that Ferrari should stop being so tied down to their racing heritage. Look, I know Ferrari is the team with the biggest heritage and also the biggest success, not only in Formula 1, but also in different categories. I mean, I'm saying this as a tifosi myself. Ferrari is the team you think of when you hear racing. And granted, when you have such a huge history in the sport, you have all the rights to praise, but not to an extent where it's actually pulling them back. Formula 1 is a very diverse sport, especially with the people who work trackside and also at the factories. People who work in F1 usually come from all kinds of different backgrounds, which in return gives the teams a bigger pool to choose from. However, it runs a bit different for Ferrari. Majority of the people who work currently for Ferrari come from an Italian background. And it almost seems like if you're trying to work for Ferrari, their criteria are if you know cars and second of all, if you're Italian. And they stick to it pretty strictly. I mean, damn it, Mattia Binotto himself rarely spoke English in interviews and in livery reviews just because he wanted people to know that he's a true Italian so he can be trusted with the team. And spoiler alert, he couldn't be trusted. Look, I have nothing against Italians. They're one of the most loveliest people on the planet. It's one of the most beautiful countries in the world with the most tastiest cuisine. These engineers are obviously the creme de la creme in motorsports. Except the race engineers, of course. But as I said before, the more diverse your pool gets, the bigger it also gets. I mean, yes, you could be hiring the best engineers in Italy, but then at the same time your opponent teams are hiring the best in the world. And all this because they just want to stick to their traditions. Lately there has been a rumor that they have moved engineers from WEC department that are responsible for the very successful WEC hypercar. Look, I just hope personally also as a tifosi that this helps them take a big step forward, but also a part of me wonders how big of an effect these engineers from WEC can make to the Formula 1 team in January. Like by January, most teams already have a driving car, except Williams apparently. To quote Sebastian Vettel, one of the legends and my favorite driver in the sport's history, everybody is a Ferrari fan. Even if you're not, you're a Ferrari fan. Regardless of what team you support, everybody wants to see the red car on top. That's how precious Ferrari is to Formula One. Ferrari is Formula One. And Charles Leclerc is one of the most promising chances at a world championship in a while. So Ferrari, stop being in this bubble that you call heritage. Hire the best in the world, and that is how you become the best in the world. Heritage isn't about Ferrari employing Italians. It isn't about speaking Italian in the media. It isn't the Italian flag being waving just for them to finish P7 and P8. It is about victory, domination, and that top step on that podium. Well, that's been my opinion on why Ferrari can't afford to lose Leclerc. What do you think? Do you agree with me? What are your opinions? Let me know down in the comments. I've been Tero, and so we crossed the line.